Oh, how to avoid the second-headed and fourth-headed metaphorical monsters? Oh, hey folks, elder law care attorney Patrick Kelleher coming to you from elderlawcare.com. Folks, today's question is, how do you make gifts to your children or maybe even your grandchildren without messing up your estate plan? Folks, I'll start today's video with a resource because I drafted an article several years ago for South Shore Senior newspaper called Gifting is a Double-Edged Sword. All right, we often talk about slaying the metaphorical four-headed beast with a sharp sword and shield. And in that article, I talk about a fictitious person named Mabel and grandma who's very benevolent and she likes to give gifts to her children and her grandchildren. That's all well and good, folks, but in that article, I call it a double-edged sword, meaning that giving gifts can be advantageous to reduce your estate, for maybe the estate death tax, especially if you live in a state that still has a state-level estate tax. And so keep in mind, the second-headed monster is the estate tax. A brief overview, there's a federal estate tax that applies to everyone in the United States of America, in all states. The good news, it's very high right now. It's about 12 million plus for each individual, meaning that if you do not have more than 12 million, you do not have to worry about the federal estate tax. But hold on a moment. Tax laws are often changed. I call that the 3 L's, changes in law. How much control do we have over that? And write this down. In 2026, under the Tax Cut and Jobs Act, the current $12 million federal estate tax is going to roll back to about $5.5 million. So that could affect some of you listeners and viewers right now. And you need to have tax planning around that because the federal estate tax could be as much as 40%. Yes, you heard it right. 40% of your estate going to the federal government for the federal estate tax if you do not have proper tax planning in your revocable trust. So write a note to that effect and make sure your estate elder law attorney puts the proper tax planning called marital trust planning, bypass trust planning, or bypass credit shelter trust planning designed to reduce your estate tax to the greatest degree possible. But folks, if you live in a state here like the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, there's 12 states currently in the country that still have a state level estate tax. And it's set at a very low threshold, currently still at only $1 million. So it may be advantageous to make gifts out of your estate to reduce the estate tax. And we've seen folks do that. The concern is, folks, the double-edged sword, that's the advantage, reduce the estate tax. The disadvantage, the big detriment is the following. If you are in the fourth quarter of life, folks, you have to be really careful about the timing of your gifts. And this is the reason why. Because if you make gifts to your children and grandchildren in the fourth quarter of life, and either you or your spouse become completely incapacitated and you need to enter a nursing home and you cannot afford the $15,000 or the $18,000 per month private paid nursing home, and you need to apply for Medicaid benefits to help supplement the cost of that long-term care in that skilled nursing facility. Well, if you made gifts out of your estate within 5 years of applying for Medicaid benefits, the Medicaid caseworker is going to pull out their denial stamp and say denied because you made what they construe as an impermissible gift within that 5-year look-back period. So that's the big detriment, folks, that you really have to be careful of. Gifting, folks, I commonly advise our clients around that. You have to proceed with caution. You do not want to paint yourself into the corner. You certainly do not want to shoot yourself in the foot, so to speak. So maybe, when is the appropriate time to make gifts without messing up your estate plan? Maybe second quarter of life, maybe third quarter of life, so long as you're alive and well and you and your spouse are both healthy. My concern is, from experience, when folks are in the fourth quarter of life or the late fourth quarter of life and they're making gifts out of their estate. All well and good, but keep in mind, again, do not forget, if you or your spouse became completely incapacitated and needed to rely on Medicaid to help supplement and pay for your $15,000 to $18,000 per month private paid nursing home, and if you made that gift within 5 years, they're going to create a penalty period and deny Medicaid benefits until that penalty period expires or until the recipient of the gift repays it and cures that penalty, which oftentimes does not happen in the real world. So proceed with caution, folks. Meet with your estate elder law attorney before you make gifts out of your estate to make sure that timing is proper. And another proper time to make gifts, from my experience, is maybe not the fourth quarter, but maybe the 2-minute warning. You're not going into a nursing home. You're home, or your loved one is home on hospice, palliative care, less than 6 months to live, sadly, and they have a taxable estate. Maybe then assess and evaluate the situation closely, because you do not need Medicaid benefits. And then you can work with your estate elder law attorney and the family accountant, CPA, to make permissible gifts out of your estate with the objective of reducing the estate tax. Okay, folks? And one more piece of this, folks. Currently, the annual gift tax exclusion is $17,000. If you exceed that in a calendar year, you are required to file a gift tax return called the 709 gift tax return. And the other piece of this, folks, you can make gifts in excess of that, more substantial gifts, but you do have to file that gift tax return with your accountant, and your gifts will reduce the amount of your estate tax coupon or your estate tax exemption, because it's all a unified system under the Tax Cut and Jobs Act. Folks, hopefully this video was helpful. If so, scroll down, post a comment, post a question, because a member of our elder law care team will get back to you as soon as possible. If you'd like to learn more, and most importantly, learn how to slay that metaphorical four-headed beast, probate court, the estate death tax, financial creditors and predators, and maybe that long-term care nursing home, you can pick up a copy of our book on Amazon. Elder law attorney Patrick Kelleher, How to Avoid the Four-Headed Monster of Estate Planning and Elder Law. Folks, thanks for joining us here today at elderlawcare.com.